Okay, so a bit of an interesting one today. I thought we'd go ahead and rank all of the arcade levels in LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga. Now in total, there are 12 levels. That said, drop in player 2, and let's get into it. So coming at number 12, we have Dagobah. Now Dagobah is a series of small islands set in the middle of the swamp, and the way you traverse the islands is either by using the grapple points or by standing on buttons to extend bridges. That's a fairly small level, and it's incredibly dark and kind of dull and depressing, which is accurate to how Dagobah is, but there isn't really a whole lot you can do there. If you fall in the swamp you'll die, unless you're playing as an astromech droid, which I mean that's quite cool honestly. That feature only exists in Dagobah, the astromech droid periscope. But if we exclude the bridges, there isn't really a whole lot going on here. There isn't anything to build, anything to interact with, it's just the buttons of the bridges. Coming in at number 11, we have Mos Eisley. Now immediately you'll notice the camera angle is completely different to anything else in this game. You get more of a bird's eye view looking downwards, which is unique, I'll say that. However, Mos Eisley for the most part is kind of like a maze. Everything looks exactly the same. There isn't really a whole lot of variation. You've got some doors that open, and you've got the occasional moisture evaporator around, but other than that there isn't really a whole lot going on. Everything looks the same, and this level is incredibly boring. However, the reason it's slightly higher than Dagobah is because there's nowhere to fall off, so you can't accidentally die. In at number 10, we have Kashyyyk. Now Kashyyyk is very similar to the opening of episode 3's level, Defense on Kashyyyk. You start in the trees, and the platforms look basically identical to the ones from that level. There aren't really too many places to go. You just kind of wander around the circular platforms. You've got one grapple point that you can go up to, and you've also got a massive tree trunk that you can wander around, as well as a bridge that is also from the episode 3 level. It's one of the ones where you have to build it using the force and then use the force again to actually activate it. The bridge will lower, and when you try and walk over it, nothing really happens. You just kind of get flung back up into the air, and you can't do anything. You can't go anywhere. It's kind of weird. In at number 9, we have Bespin. Now Bespin has a really cool atmosphere. You're outside and it's at night, and this is fairly similar to the ending of episode 5, chapter 5, Cloud City Trap, where you're near the weather vane, which I think is quite cool. You've also got the ambient wind sound effects, which once again just kind of add to the atmosphere, and you can hear all the wind going around. As for the actual level, it's fairly similar to the other ones. You've got some platforms, some buttons to extend bridges, and then you've also got these massive doors that you can't really do anything with. You go inside of them and then nothing happens, and you can see the camera kind of tries to pan over to where you are, behind the door. But there isn't really anything in there, so I'm not entirely sure what they're doing. But overall, fairly standard level for arcade, it seems like. But I just think the atmosphere is really cool, and the ambient sound effects definitely add to it. In at number 8, we have Hoth. Now Hoth, once again, just like Bespin, has some really good atmosphere. On the floor there's ice, so whenever you walk around, you'll slide around, which is definitely interesting. You've got a couple of grapple points, lots of trees that are incredibly incorrectly scaled. The actual LEGO tree piece they use is not that big, which I think is honestly quite funny. It's a cool piece, quite an old piece, but not accurate to the actual LEGO piece whatsoever. You've got some platforms, some boxes to destroy, a platform that you need to use the force on to get up to a power up, which is quite cool. And probably my favourite part of the entire level is this dome. You kind of have to walk towards the camera, and then you end up going into the middle of a dome that acts like a lift, which is quite cool. If you remember episode 5, chapter 2, Echo Base, there's a similar dome there, which is in the bonus area. Kind of reminds me of that, which is quite cool. I don't know, it's just very smooth how you go kind of off camera and then up through the centre of the dome. It works very well. And yeah, just the cold atmosphere, it's nice, and you've got the music as well. And once again the oversized trees. Coming in at number 7, we have Endor. Now I like Endor because it has a lot of stuff in it. You've got bridges that in order to actually use you have to build them yourself, which is quite cool. You've then got more bridges that you have to pull levers to activate. You've got grapple points, and you've also got these small person hatches, which I don't think have been in any of the other levels we've looked at today on this list. Overall I just think it's a fun level because there's just a lot of stuff going on and lots of different interactive elements. As for the actual level aesthetics, you're in the Ewok village, and it's dusk, which is honestly quite nice. Reminds me of the end of episode 6. Coming at number 6, we have Feed Palace. Now Feed Palace to me is really cool aesthetically. You've got a lot of different types of architecture and gateways, and most of the gates actually open. You can walk through them. You've got a lot of massive courtyards and fountains, as well as some lifts that go up and down. And so there's a surprising amount of verticality in this level. You've also got these silver gates that you have to use bounty hunters to destroy. However, there isn't really anything behind them. There's just some alcoves and archways that you can walk through, but they don't really lead anywhere. Most of them are dead ends. Additionally, the overall layout of the level is quite different to some of the other ones. I've already mentioned the verticality, but the level overall has a lot more solid ground and areas you can walk around in, compared to some of the other levels that are more platform based with large gaps in between them and bridges separating them, which I definitely think is interesting. The field is also really bright and sunny, which is quite uplifting compared to some of the darker levels such as Dagobah. In at number 5, we have Geonosis. Now what I like about Geonosis is that it's set inside of the droid factory. It's not outside anywhere, it's not in the arena, it's literally inside of the droid factory, which I think is a really cool setting. You've got a fair few different pathways you can take when traversing. You've got a fair few different pathways you can take when traversing the level. The bridges return with the buttons that you have to walk over to extend them. However, you've also got the addition of the burning pots of lava and Lego pieces that are in episode 2 chapter 3, Droid Factory. These make for an interesting obstacle as you have to jump onto them and then jump off. As you have to jump on them and then jump off of them as they're moving. However, when I was playing, they were quite laggy. You'll see here that the game you'll see in the clip here that the game just lags completely when I stand on them, which is quite weird. Other than that, you've also got the massive doors that lead to absolutely nowhere again, which seems to be a common theme. However, I'm guessing that for multiplayer, they're quite fun because you can kind of hide in them. Overall though, just a cool setting. The Droid Factory is really cool, and you can hear all the mechanical noises in the background, as well as also being able to see some of the conveyor belts. If you go to the edge of the map and look downwards, you can see them down there, which I definitely think is pretty cool. Coming at number 4, we have Mustafar. Now Mustafar is incredibly interesting, because the entire floor is made out of lava, and the only playable area you've got to work with are platforms. Now these platforms actually require a fair amount of precision when jumping to, because once again you've got to consider the camera. Now the way the camera works in this game is that both players need to be on the screen at the same time. If they're not, the game will usually try and pull them together, which is really irritating, especially if you're doing a jumping section, as it will often move the characters away from where you're trying to jump to backwards over the pit that you just jumped over, and you'll usually end up falling into it, which is really irritating. If that doesn't work, or if one of the players gets too far off screen, the second player will literally just get teleported on top of them. Or in some cases, in some really extreme cases, one of the players will just straight up get disconnected, which will pause the game because you're in 2-player arcade and you have to have 2 players. And honestly, in my opinion, this is very irritating. Jumping around the side though, there isn't really a whole lot going on here. You've got some of the platforms from the episode 3 chapter 6 level, Darth Vader, reused, and there's a power up at the end of them. You've got a couple of areas with more permanent ground, with some barrels on them, but other than that, there isn't really a whole lot here. I just like it because the idea of having a load of platforms to jump around on is quite unique, and definitely makes it an interesting level, as well as the risk that if you fall in the lava you will die, which will obviously lose your point if you're playing in the dual mode. Something just about all the fire and the lava, it's just really cool in my opinion. Coming in at number 3, we have Camino. Now Camino offers a lot of horizontal movement, with the trade-off is not much vertical movement at all. There aren't really too many places you can go up and down. The camera angle is also a bit weird, it's kind of far out, and reminds me almost of 2-dimensional games, in a way. Now I actually do not remember this map at all. I don't think I've ever seen this map before making this video, which shows you how little I played the 2-player arcade mode growing up. But anyway, as always, the atmosphere is really good, all of the water from the rain, all looks good. But to me, the very interesting thing is that there are these doors that are blocked by silver Lego pieces, meaning you need to shoot them and use bounty hunters to destroy them. And once you've destroyed them and opened the doors, you will notice very large replicas of Phase 1 2002 clone helmets. And I think the really cool bit is that the cutout for the visor where the face actually goes is there. Because the way the Lego piece works is it's kind of got a cutout, and you can see the black head underneath. It's not got a printed visor or anything. And if you look closely at the ones in the level, you'll notice that. You can see the transparent piece holding them up, which I think is really cool. Other than that, you just got a load of large platforms, and you can see that I had a bit of trouble with one of them. I was using Boba Fett. In fact, I was playing as Boba Fett twice for some reason. And the game just really wasn't cooperating with me and spawning me in 2 places where the camera pulled me together and I fell off the ledge. Twice as 2 different people. Which honestly is kind of annoying. But either way, just the clone heads make this really cool. And the fact that I've never seen this before is why it's so high up on the list. Coming at number 2, we have Utapau, which is the exact opposite of Camino. Utapau's got a lot of vertical movement, and I mean, honestly there's a lot of horizontal movement too. It's a fairly big level. Now Utapau is kind of set into the cliff face, which is quite cool. It's quite an interesting setting. You've got all of the bridges and all of the different kind of architecture that you see in episode 3, from the scenes where Obi-Wan is meeting with Tia and Medon, where he mentions that there are thousands of battle droids on the 10th level. The architecture is very spot on, and very similar to what you see there, so I think it's done a very good job of making it look like the planet. There's loads of grapple points and verticality, which, once again, the camera really doesn't make this work at all, because you'll see that a lot of the time I end up falling off of things, and just struggling to get around, which honestly is probably down to me playing as 2 people at once. It's really irritating using the arrow keys and WSD and the numpad, and I, J, K and L on the keyboard. Yeah, keyboard controls are kind of weird. You've got a few different ledges and a few different jumps you can do to get yourself up to power-ups, and like I said, you've got all the different bridges you can walk along. There's loads of barrels too you can destroy, but once again I just think Utapau is a really interesting location, especially the specific area they've chosen for it. And finally, coming in at number 1, we have the Senate. This is just cool, having the Senate as a playable area. I honestly think they should have probably replaced episode 3 chapter 5, Ruin of the Jedi. I think that if they had the Senate duel of Palpatine and Yoda in the actual Senate that they've got here, that would have made for a really fun boss fight. Or maybe they could have split the boss fight somehow in the Darth Vader one, where you're fighting Anakin. Although maybe not, because that's a really cool boss fight itself. I don't know, but I definitely think they should have been in the level, because it's such a unique location, and it looks really good. You've got loads of different pods that the senators sit in, you've got loads of different ones you can jump around to, and you can actually go up a fairly long way, and left and right a lot more than you think as well. But I think the Senate is such a cool location. Obviously you've got, the Palpatine meme, where he states to Mace Windu and the Jedi that he is in fact the Senate, which is just kind of funny. Pretty cool meme. But anyway, yes, that will have to conclude my ranking for all of the arcade levels. Now you could definitely argue that doing this in single player was a horrible idea, and doing this in 2-player mode may have been a bit more balanced and fair, and that doing this with 2 players, 2 actual real people, may have been a bit more of a more balanced way to get good arguments for each level, and good reasoning behind each level and each choice on the list, because this mode is very clearly meant for 2 players. You have to have 2 players to even be allowed to go in the door to play it. And I had so many issues with the camera that I even, included the section where I explained how it works and the perils of moving too far away on the screen. But I hope you've enjoyed either way. The video on screen now is every single boss fight ranked, because some of the bosses in this game are really, really good. But anyway, yes, that is it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please be sure to like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you all later.